May our Father, Messiah, and Holy Spirit be with us. I'm picking up from my reading from Jeremiah, the word which came to Jeremiah from our Father in heaven. Hear the terms of this covenant, and recite them to the men of Yehuda and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And say to them, Thus said our Father in heaven, the Elohim of Israel, cursed be the man who will not obey the terms of this covenant, which I enjoined upon your fathers when I freed them from the land of Mitzrayim, the iron crucible, saying, Obey me and observe them, just as I command you, that you may be my people, and I may be your Elohim, in order to fulfill the oath which I swore to your fathers, to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, as is now the case. And I responded, Amen, our Father in heaven. And our Father in heaven said to me, Proclaim all these things through the towns of Jehudah and the streets of Jerusalem. Hear the terms of this covenant and perform them. For I have repeatedly and persistently warned your fathers from the time I brought them out of Mitzrayim to this day, saying, Obey my commands. But they would not listen or give ear. They all allowed the willfulness of their evil hearts. But they would not listen or give ear. They all followed the willfulness of their evil hearts. So I have brought upon them all the terms of this covenant, because they did not do what I commanded them to do. Our Father in heaven said to me, A conspiracy exists among the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They have returned to the iniquities of their fathers of old, who refused to heed my words. They too have followed other mighty ones and served them. The house of Israel and the house of Jehudah have broken the covenant that I made with their fathers. Assuredly, thus said our Father in heaven, I am going to bring upon them disaster from which they will not be able to escape. Then they will cry out to me, but I will not listen to them. And the townsmen of Jehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem will go and cry out to the gods to which they sacrifice, but they will not be able to rescue them in their time of disaster. For your gods have become as many as your towns, O Jehudah, and you have set up as many altars to shame as there are streets in Jerusalem, altars for sacrifice to Baal. As for you, that was my neighbor. Do not pray for this people. Do not raise a cry of prayer on their behalf, for I will not listen when they call to me on account of their disaster. Why should my beloved be in my house, who executes so many vile designs? The sacral flesh will pass away from you. For you exult while performing your evil deeds. Our Father in heaven named you verdant olive tree, fair with choice fruit, but with a great roaring sound he has set it on fire, and its boughs are broken. Our Father in heaven of hosts, who planted you, has decreed disaster for you because of the evil wrought by the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah, who angered me by sacrificing to Baal. Our Father in heaven informed me, and I knew. Then you let me see their deeds, for I was like a Dachau lamb led to the slaughter. I did not realize that it was against me. They fashioned their plots. Let us destroy the tree with its fruit. Let us cut him off from the hand of the living, that his name be remembered no more. O our Father in heaven of hosts, O just judge, who test the thoughts and the mind, let me see your retribution upon them. For I lay my case before you. Assuredly, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, concerning the men of Anathoth who seek your life and say, You must not prophesy any more in the name of our Father in heaven, or you would die by our hand. Assuredly, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, I am going to deal with them. The young men shall die by the sword. Their boys and girls shall die by famine. No remnant shall be left of them. For I will bring disaster on the men of Anathoth the year of their doom. You will win, O our Father in heaven. If I make claim against you, yet I shall present charges against you. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why are the workers of treachery at ease? You have planted them, and they have taken root. They spread, they even bear fruit. You are present in their mouths, but far from their thoughts. Yet you, our Father in heaven, have noted and observed me. You have tested my heart and found it with you. Drive them out like sheep to the slaughter. Prepare them for the day of slaying. How long must the land languish and the grass of all the countryside dry up? Must beasts and birds perish because of the evil of its inhabitants, who say he will not look upon our future? If you race with the foot runners and they exhaust you, how then can you compete with horses? If you are secure only in a tranquil land, how will you fare in the jungle of the Jordan? For even your kinsmen in your father's house, even they are treacherous toward you. They cry after you as a mob. Do not believe them when they speak quarterly to you. I have abandoned my house. I have deserted my possession. I have given over my dearly beloved into the hands of her enemies. My own people acted toward me like a lion in the forest. She raised her voice against me, therefore I have rejected her. My own people acts toward me like a bird of prey, or a hyena. Let the birds of prey surround her. Go gather all the wild beasts, bring them to devour. Many shepherds have destroyed my vineyard. have trampled my field, have made my delightful field a desolate wilderness. They have made her a desolation, desolate. She pours out grief to me. The whole land is laid desolate, but no man gives it thought. Spoilers have come upon all the bar heights of the wilderness, for a sword of our Father in heaven devours from one end of the land to the other. No flesh is safe. They have sown wheat and reaped thorns. They have endured pain to no avail. Be shamed then by your harvest, by the blazing wrath of our Father in heaven. Thus said our Father in heaven, as for my wicked neighbors, who encroach on the heritage that I gave to my people Israel, I am going to uproot them from their soil, and I will uproot the house of Jehudah out of the midst of them. Then after I have uprooted them, I will take them back into favor and restore them each to his own inheritance and his own land. And if they learn the ways of my people, to swear by my name, as our Father in heaven lives, just as they once taught my people to swear by Baal, then they shall be built up in the midst of my people. But if they do not give heed, I will tear out that nation, tear it out and destroy it, declares our Father in heaven. Thus said our Father in heaven to me, go buy yourself a loincloth of linen and put it around your loins, but do not dip it into water. So I brought the loincloth in accordance with our Father in heaven's command, and put it about my loins. And the word of our Father in heaven came to me a second time. Take the loincloth which you brought, which is about your loins, and go at once to Peroth, and cover it up there in a cleft of the rock. I went and buried it at Peroth, as our Father in heaven had commanded me. Then after a long time, our Father in heaven said to me, go at once to Peroth, and take there the loincloth which I commanded you to bury there. So I went to Peroth, and dug up the loincloth from the place where I had buried it, and found the loincloth ruined. It was no good for anything. The word of our Father in heaven came to me. Thus said our Father in heaven, even so will I ruin the overweening pride of Jehudah and Jerusalem, this wicked people, who refuse to heed my bidding, who follow the willfulness of their own hearts, who follow other deities and serve them and worship them, shall become like that loincloth, which is not good for anything. For as the loincloth clings close to the loins of a man, so I brought close to me the whole house of Israel and the whole house of Jehudah, declares our Father in heaven, that they might be my people for fame and praise and splendor, but they will not obey. And speak this word to them. Thus said our Father in heaven, the Elohim of Israel, every jar should be filled with wine. And when they say to you, don't we know that every jar should be filled with wine? Say to them, thus said our Father in heaven, I am going to fill with drunkenness all the inhabitants of this land, and the kings who sit on the throne of David, and the priests and the prophets, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will smash them one against the other, parents and children alike, declares our Father in heaven. No pity, compassion, or mercy will stop me from destroying them. Attend and give ear, be not haughty, for our Father in heaven has spoken. Give honor to our Father in heaven, dear Elohim, before he brings darkness, before your feet stumble on the mountains in shadow, when you hope for light, and it is turned to darkness and becomes deep gloom. For if you will not give heed, my inmost self must weep. Because of your arrogance, my eye must stream and flow with copious tears. Because the flock of our Father in heaven is taken captive, say to the king and the queen mother, sit in a lowly spot, for your diadems are abased. Your glorious crowns, the cities of the Negeb, are shut. There is no one to open them. Judah is exiled completely, all of it exiled. Raise your eyes and behold, those who come from the north. Where are the sheep entrusted to you, the flock you took pride in? What will you say when they appoint as your heads? What will you say when they appoint as your heads those among you whom you train to be tame? Shall not pain seize you like a woman in childbirth? And when you ask yourself, why have these things befallen me? It is because of your great iniquity that your skirts are lifted up, your limbs exposed. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Just as much can you do good, who are practicing doing evil. So I will scatter you like straw that flies before the desert wind. This shall be your lot, your measured portion from me, declares our Father in heaven, because you forgot me and trusted in falsehood. I in turn will lift your skirts over your face, and your shame shall be seen. I behold your adulteries, your lustful name, your unbridled depravity, your vile acts on the hills of the countryside. Woe to you, O Jerusalem, who will not be clean. How much longer shall it be? The word of our Father in heaven, which came to Jeremiah concerning the droughts. Jehudah is in mourning, her settlements languish, men are bowed to the ground, and an outcry of Jerusalem rises. Their nobles sent their servants for water. They came to the cisterns, they found no water. They returned, their vessels empty. They are shamed and humiliated. They covered their heads because of the ground. There is dismay, for there has been no rain on the earth. The plowmen are shamed. They cover their heads. Even the hind in the field forsakes her newborn fawn, because there is no grass. And the wild donkeys stand on the bare heights, snuffing the air like jackals. Their eyes pine, because there is no herbage, though our iniquities testify against us. Act, O our Father in heaven, for the sake of your name. Though our rebellious are many, and we have sinned against you, O hope of Israel, its deliverer in time of trouble. Why are you like a stranger in the land, like a traveler who stops only for the night? Why are you like a man who was stunned, like a warrior who cannot give victory? Yet you are in our midst, O our Father in heaven, and your name is attached to us. Do not forsake us. Thus said our Father in heaven concerning this people. Truly they love to stray. They have not restrained their feet, so our Father in heaven has no pleasure in them. Now he will recall their iniquity and punish their sin. And our Father in heaven said to me, do not pray for the benefit of this people. When they fast, I will not listen to the outcry. When they present burnt offerings and meal offerings, I will not accept them. I will exterminate them by war, famine, and disease. I said, our Father in heaven, Elohim, the prophets are saying to them, you shall not see the sword, famine shall not come upon you, but I will give you unfailing security in this place. Our Father in heaven replied, it is a lie that the prophets utter in my name. I have not sent them or commanded them. I have not spoken to them. A lying vision, an empty divination, the deceit of their own contriving. That is why they prophesy to you. Surely, thus said our Father in heaven concerning the prophets who prophesy in my name, though I have not sent them, and who say, sword and famine shall not befall this land, those very prophets shall perish by sword and famine, and the people to whom they prophesy shall be left lying in the secrets of Jerusalem because of the famine and the sword, with none to bury them. They, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, I will pour out upon them the requital of their wickedness. And do you speak to them thus? Let my eyes run with tears day and night. Let them not cease, for my helpless people has suffered. For my maiden daughter has suffered. For the maiden daughter has suffered a grievous injury, a very painful wound. If I go out to the country, lo, the slain of the sword. If I enter the city, lo, those who are sick with famine, both priest and prophet roam the land. They know not where. Have you then rejected Jehudah? Have you spurned Zion? Why have you smitten us, so that there is no curse? Why do we hope for happiness, but find no good? For a time of healing and meet terror. Instead, we acknowledge our wickedness, O our Father in heaven, the iniquity of our fathers. For we have sinned against you for your name's sake. Do not disown us. Do not dishonor your glorious throne. Remember, do not annul your covenant with us. Can any of the false mighty ones of the nations give rain? Can the skies of themselves give showers? Only you, O our Father in heaven, are Elohim, so we hope in you, for only you made all these things. Our Father in heaven said to me, even if Moshe and Shemuel were to intercede with me, I will not be won over to that point. I will not be won over to that people. Dismiss them from my presence and let them go forth. And if they ask you, to what shall we go forth? Answer them, thus said our Father in heaven, those destined for the plague to the plague, those destined for the sword to the sword, those destined for famine to famine, those destined for captivity to captivity, and I will appoint over them 4 kinds of punishment, declares our Father in heaven, the sword to slay, the dogs to drag, the birds of the sky, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy. I will make them a horror to all the kingdoms of the earth on account of King Manasseh, son of Hezekiah of Jehudah, and of what he did in Jerusalem. But who will pity you, O Jerusalem? Who will counsel you? Who will turn aside to inquire about your welfare? You cast me off, declares our Father in heaven. You go ever backward. So I have stretched out my hand to destroy you. I cannot relent. I will scatter them as with a winnowing fork. Through the settlements of the earth, I will bereave, I will destroy my people, for they will not turn back from their ways. Their widows shall be more numerous than the sands of the seas. I will bring against them young men and mothers together. A destroyer at noonday, I will bring down suddenly upon them alarm and terror. She who bore 7 is forlorn, utterly disconsolate. Her son has set while it is still day. She is shamed and humiliated. The remnant of them I will declare to the sword, to the power of their enemies, declares our Father in heaven. Woe was me, my mother, that you ever bore me, a man of conflict and strife with all that land. I have not lent, and I have not borrowed, yet everyone curses me. Our Father in heaven said, surely a mere remnant of you will I spare for a better fate, by the enemy from the north, in a time of distress, in a time of disaster. Surely I will have you struck down. Can iron break iron and bronze? I will hand over your wealth and your treasures as a spoil free of charge because of all your sins throughout your territory, and I will bring your enemies by way of a land you have not known, for a fire has flared in my wrath. It blazes against you, O our Father in heaven. You know, remember me and take thought of me. Avenge me on those who persecute me. Do not yield to your patience. Do not let me perish. Consider how I have borne insult on your account when your words were offered. I devoured them. Your word brought me the delight and joy of knowing that your name is attached to me, O our Father in heaven. Elohim of hosts, I have not sat in the company of revilers and made merry. I have sat lonely because of your hand upon me. For you have filled me with gloom. Why must my pain be endless? My wound incurable, resistant to healing. You have been to me like a spring that fails, like waters that cannot be relied on. Assuredly, thus said our Father in heaven, if you turn back, I shall take you back. You shall stand before me. If you produce what is noble out of the worthless, you shall be my spokesman. They shall come back to you, not you to them, against his people. I will make you as a fortified wall of bronze. They will attack you, but they shall not overcome you. For I am with you to deliver and save you, declares our Father in heaven. I will save you from the hands of the wicked and rescue you from the clutches of the violent. The word of our Father in heaven came to me. You are not to marry and not to have sons and daughters in this place. For thus said our Father in heaven, concerning any sons and daughters that may be born in this place, and concerning the mothers who bear them, and concerning the fathers who begat them in this land, they shall die gruesome deaths. They shall not be lamented or buried. They shall be like dung on the surface of the ground. They shall be consumed by the sword and by famine, and their corpses shall be food for the birds of the sky and the beasts of the earth. For thus said our Father in heaven, do not enter a house of mourning, do not go to lament and to condole with them, for I have withdrawn my favor from that people, declares our Father in heaven. My kindness and compassion, great and small alike, shall die in this land. They shall not be buried, men shall not lament them, nor gash and tonsure themselves for them. They shall not break bread for a mourner, to comfort him for a bereavement, nor offer one a cup of consolation for the loss of his father or mother, nor shall you enter a house of feasting to sit down with them to eat and drink. For thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, I am going to banish from this place in your days and before your eyes the sound of mirth and gladness, the voice of bridegroom and bride. And when you announce all these things to that people, and they ask you, why has our Father in heaven decreed upon us all this fearful evil? What is the iniquity and what is the iniquity and what the sin that we have committed against our Father in heaven and our Elohim? Say to them, because your fathers deserted me, declares our Father in heaven, and follow other mighty ones and serve them and worship them. They deserted me and did not keep my instruction. And you have acted worse than your fathers, every one of you following the willfulness of his evil heart, and paying no heed to me. Therefore I will hurry you out of this land to a land that neither you nor your fathers have known, and there you will serve other mighty ones day and night. For I will show you no mercy. Assuredly a time is coming, declares our Father in heaven, when it shall no more be said, as our Father in heaven lives, who brought the Israelites out of the land of Mitzrayim, but rather as our Father in heaven lives, who brought the Israelites out of the north land and out of the lands to which he had banished them. For I will bring them back to their land which I gave to their fathers. Lo, I am sending for many fishermen, declares our Father in heaven, and they shall haul them out. And after that I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them, out of every mountain, and out of every hill, and out of the clefts of the rocks. For my eyes are on all their ways, they are not hidden from my presence. Their iniquity is not concealed from my sight. I will pay them in full, nay, doubly, for their iniquity and their sins. I don't really know how to pronounce that word. Doubly for their iniquity and their sins. As they have defiled my land with the corpses of their abominations, and have filled my own possession with their abhorrent things. O our Father in heaven, my strength and my stronghold, my refuge in a day of trouble. To you nations shall come from the ends of the earth, and say, our fathers inherited utter delusions, things that are futile and worthless. Can a man make mighty ones for himself? No, mighty ones are they. No gods are they. Assuredly I will teach them once and for all. Once and for all I will teach them my power and my might, and they shall learn that my name is our Father in heaven. 17. The gate of Jehudah is inscribed with a stylus of iron engraved with an adamant point on the tablet of their hearts and on the horns of their altars, while their children remember their altars are in sacred posts by verdant trees upon lofty hills. Because of the sin of your shrines throughout your borders, I will make your rampart a heap in the field, and all your treasures a spoil. You will forfeit by your own act the inheritance I have given you. I will make you a slave to your enemies in a land you have never known, for you have kindled the flame of my wrath, which shall burn for all time. Thus said our Father in heaven, cursed is he who trusts in man, who makes mere flesh his strength, and turns his thoughts from my Father in heaven. He shall be like a bush in the desert, which does not sense the coming of good. It is set in the scorched places of the wilderness. It is in a barren land without inhabitant. Blessed is he who trusts in our Father in heaven, who trusts in our Father in heaven alone. It shall be like a tree planted by water, sending forth its fruits by a stream. It does not sense the coming of heat. Its leaves are ever fresh. It has no care in a year of drought. It does not cease to yield fruit. Most devious is the heart. It is perverse. Who can fathom it? I, our Father in heaven, probe the heart, search the mind, to repay every man according to his ways, with the proper fruit of his deeds, like a partridge hatching, which he did not lay. So is one who amasses wealth by unjust means. In the middle of his life, it will leave him, and in the end he will be proved a fool. O throne of glory, exalted from of old, our sacred shrine, O hope of Israel, O our Father in heaven, O who forsake you shall be put to shame. Those in the land who turn from you shall be doomed men, for they have forsaken our Father in heaven, the fount of living waters. Heal me, O our Father in heaven, and let me be healed. Save me and let me be saved, for you are my glory. See, they say to me, where is the prediction of our Father in heaven? Let it come to pass. But I have not evaded being a shepherd in your service, nor have I longed for the fatal day. You know the utterance of my lips, they were ever before you. Do not be a cause of dismay to me. You are my refuge in the day of calamity. Let my persecutors be shamed, and let not me be shamed. Let them be dismayed, and let not me be dismayed. Bring on them the day of disaster, and shatter them with double destruction. For thus said our Father in heaven to me, go and stand in the people's gate, by which the kings of Jehudah enter, and by which they go forth, and in all the gates of Jerusalem, and say to them, hear the word of our Father in heaven, O kings of Jehudah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, who enter by these gates. Thus said our Father in heaven, guard yourself for your own sake against carrying burdens on the Sabbath day, and bringing them through the gates of Jerusalem. Nor shall you carry our burdens from your houses on the Sabbath day, or do any work, but you shall hallow the Sabbath day, as I commanded your fathers. But they would not listen or turn their ear. They stiffened their necks and would not pay heed or accept discipline. If you obey me, declares our Father in heaven, and do not bring in burdens through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, but hallow the Sabbath day, and do no work on it, then through the gates of the city through the gates of this city shall enter kings who sit upon the throne of David with their officers, riding on chariots and horses, they and their officers, and the men of Jehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And this city shall be inhabited for all time, and people shall come from the towns of Jehudah, and from the environs of Jerusalem, and from the land of Benjamin, and from the Shephelah, and from the hill country, and from the Negeb, bringing burnt offerings and sacrifices, meal offerings and frankincense, and bringing offerings of thanksgiving to the house of our Father heaven. But if you do not obey my command to hallow the Sabbath day, and to carry in no burdens through the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I will set fire to its gates. It shall consume the fortresses of Jerusalem, and it shall not be extinguished. The word which came to Jeremiah The word which came to Jeremiah from our Father in heaven, go down to the house of a potter, and there I will impart my words to you. So I went down to the house of a potter and found him working at the wheel. And if the vessel he was making was spoiled, as happened And if the vessel he was making was spoiled, as happened to clay in the potter's hand, he would make it in another vessel, such as the potter saw fit to make. Then the word of our Father in heaven came to me, O house of Israel, can I not deal with you like this potter? Says our Father in heaven, just like clay in the hands of the potter, so are you in my hands, O house of Israel. At one moment I may decree that a nation or a kingdom shall be uprooted and pulled down and destroyed. But if that nation against which I made the decree turns back from its wickedness, I change my mind concerning the punishment I planned to bring on it. At another moment I may decree that a nation or a kingdom shall be built and planted. But if it does what is displeasing to me and does not obey me, then I change my mind concerning the good I plan to bestow upon it, and now say to the men of Jehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, thus said our Father in heaven, I am devising disaster for you and laying plans against you. Turn back each of you from your wicked ways, and mend your ways and your actions. But they will say, it is no use. We will keep on following our own plans. Each of us will act in the willfulness of his evil heart. As surely thus said our Father in heaven, inquire among the nations who has heard anything like this made in Israel has done. Who has heard anything like this made in Israel has done? A most horrible thing. Does one forsake Lebanon, snow from the mountains? Does one forsake Lebanon, snow from the mountainous rocks? Does one abandon cool water flowing from afar? Yet my people have forgotten me. They sacrifice to a delusion. They are made to stumble in their ways, the ancient paths, and to walk instead on byways, on a road not built up, so their land will become a desolation, an object of hissing for all time. Every passerby will be appalled and will shake his head. Like the east when I will scatter them before the enemy, I will look upon their back, not their face, in their day of disaster. They said, come, let us devise a plot against Jeremiah, for instruction shall not fail from the priest, nor counsel from the wise, no oracle from the prophet. Come, let us strike him with the tongue, and we shall no longer have to listen to all those words of him. Listen to me, O our Father in heaven, and take note of what my enemies say. Should good be repaid with evil? Yet they have dug a pit for me. Remember how I stood before you to plead in their behalf. Facts. To turn your anger away from them. Facts. Oh, give their children over to famine. Facts. Mow them down by the sword. Facts. Let their bodies be bereaved. Facts. Of children and husband. Facts. Let their men be struck down by the plague. Word. And a young man be slain in battle by the sword. Word. And an outcry be heard from their houses when you bring sudden marauders against them, for they have dug a pit to trap me. And our Father in heaven, and lay snares for my feet. O our Father in heaven, you know all their plots to kill me. Do not pardon their iniquity. Do not blot out their guilt from your presence. Let them be made to stumble before you. Act against them in your hour of wrath. Amen. Our Father in heaven, thus said our Father in heaven, go buy a jug of potter's ware, and take some of the elders of the people and the priests, and go out to the valley of Ben Hinnom at the entrance of the Harish gate, and proclaim there the words which I will speak to you. Say here the word of our Father in heaven. Say here the word of our Father in heaven, O kings of Jehudah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, the Elohim Israel, I am going to bring such disaster upon this place, that the ears of all who hear about it will tingle, for they and their fathers and the kings of Jehudah have forsaken me, and have made this place alien to me. They have sacrificed in it to other mighty ones whom they have not experienced, and they have filled this place with the blood of the innocent. They have built shriners to Baal, to put their children to the fire as burnt offerings to Baal, which I never commanded and never decreed, and which never came to my mind. And surely a time is coming, declares our Father in heaven, when this place shall no longer be called Topheth, or valley of Ben Hinnom, but valley of slaughter. And I will frustrate the plans of Jehudah and Jerusalem. In this place I will cause them to fall by the sword before their enemies, by the hand of those who seek their lives, and I will give their carcasses as food to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the earth. And I will make this city an object of horror and hissing. Everyone who passes by will be appalled. It will hiss over all its wounds, and I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall devour one another's flesh because of the desperate straits to which they will be reduced by their enemies who seek their life. Then you shall smash the jug. Then you shall smash the jug in the sight of the men who go with you, and say to them, Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, so will I smash this people and this city as one smashes a potter's vessel, which can never be mended, and they shall bury in Topheth until no room is left for burying. That is what I would do to this place and its inhabitants, declares our Father in heaven. I will make this city like Topheth. The houses of Jerusalem and the houses of the kings of Jehudah shall be unclean, like that place Topheth. All the houses on the roofs of which offerings were made to the whole host of heaven, and libations were poured out to other mighty ones. When Jeremiah returned from Topheth, where our Father in heaven had sent him to prophesy, he stood in the court of the house of our Father in heaven, and said to all the people, Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, I'm going to bring upon the city and upon all its villages all the disaster which I have decreed against it, for they have stiffened their necks and refused to heed my words. Pashur, son of Emir, the priest who was chief officer of the house of our Father in heaven, heard Jeremiah prophesy these things. Pashur thereupon had Jeremiah flogged and put in the cell at the upper Benjamin gate in the house of our Father in heaven. The next day Pashur released Jeremiah from the cell, but Jeremiah said to him, Our Father in heaven has named you not Pashur, but Magor Mesabib, named him terror all around. For thus said our Father in heaven, I am going to deliver you and all your friends over to terror. They will fall by the sword of their enemies while you look on. I will deliver all Jehudah into the hands of the king of Babylon. He will exile them to Babylon, or put them to the sword. And I will deliver all the wealth, all the riches, and all the prized possessions of this city. And I will also deliver all the treasures of the kings of Jehudah into the hands of their enemies. They shall seize them as plunder and carry them off to Babylon. As for you, Pashur, and all who live in your house, you shall go into captivity. You shall come to Babylon. There you shall die, and there you shall be buried, and so shall all your friends to whom you prophesied falsely. You enticed me, O our Father in heaven, and I was enticed. You overpowered me, and you prevailed. I have become a constant laughingstock. Everyone jeers at me. For every time I speak, I must cry out, must shout, lawlessness and rapine. For the word of our Father in heaven causes me constant disgrace and contempt. I thought I would not mention him, no more will I speak in his name. But his word was like a raging fire in my heart, shut up in my bones. I could not hold it in. I was helpless. I heard the whispers of the crowd tear all around and form. Let us inform against him. All my supposed friends are waiting for me to stumble. Perhaps he can be entrapped, and we can prevail against him and take our vengeance on him. But our Father in heaven is with me like a mighty warrior. Therefore my persecutors shall stumble. They shall not prevail and shall not succeed. They shall be utterly shamed with the humiliation for all time, which shall not be forgotten. O our Father in heaven of hosts, you who test the righteous, who examine the heart and the mind, let me see your retribution upon them. For I lay my case before you. Sing unto our Father in heaven. Praise our Father in heaven, for he has rescued the needy from the hands of evildoers. Accursed be the day that I was born. Let not the day be blessed when my mother bore me. Accursed be the man who brought my father news and said, a boy is born to you, and gave him such joy. Let that man become like the cities which our Father in heaven overthrew without relenting. Let him hear shrieks in the morning and battle shouts at noontide, because he did not kill me before birth, so that my mother might be my grave, and her womb big with me for all time. Why did I ever issue from the womb? To see misery and woe, to spend all my days in shame. Yeah, Father, Messiah, Holy Spirit with us. Enough right there. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Amen.